the emerald tablets, turning metal to gold, and the elixir of life. There's so much to say about this. I don't know where to start, but let me read you what the actual content of some of these tablets are. Having to do with Hermes Trismegistus, and this is Newton's translation. The translation by Isaac Newton is found among his alchemical papers that are currently housed in the King's College Library, Cambridge University. And this is what he says. "'Tis true without lying, certain and most true, that which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do the miracles of one only thing. And as all things have been and arose from one by the mediation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The sun, S-U-N, the sun is its father, the moon its mother, the wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth is its nurse, the father of all perfection in the whole world is here, its force or power is entire if it be converted into earth. Separate thou the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly with great industry. It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to the earth, and receives the force of things superior and inferior. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. So was the world created. From this are and do come admirable adaptations, where the means is here in this. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus. That's, of course, a Greek word. Trismegistus means three times great. Having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. That which I have said of the operation of the sun, S-U-N, is accomplished and ended. There is also a Latin text from 1541, but I won't read that for you. Now, the emerald tablet, known as the Smaragdine tablet. Smaragdi in Greek means emerald, or the tabula smaragdina. It's compact. It's a cryptic piece of the Hermetica, reputed to contain the secret of the prima materia and its transmutation. Hermetica, are Egyptian Greek wisdom texts from the 2nd century or earlier, which are mostly presented as dialogues in which a teacher, generally identified as Hermes Trismegistus, enlightens a disciple. The text form the basis of the Hermeticism, but we will go into that as well. Who is Hermes Trismegistus? And the prima materia. In alchemy, prima materia prima or first matter, is the ubiquitous starting material required for the alchemical magnum opus and the creation of the philosopher's stone. It is the primitive formless base of all matter, similar to chaos, the quiescence of ether. Now, the transmutation. In alchemy, the term chrysopeia means transmutation into gold. Chrysopeia means making something gold. It symbolically indicates the creation of the philosopher's stone and the completion of the great work. So it was highly regarded by European alchemists. What are alchemists? It was an ancient branch of natural philosophy, philosophical and proto-scientific tradition practiced throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia, originating Greco-Roman Egypt in the first few centuries. So it was regarded by European alchemists as the foundation of their art and its Hermetic tradition. The original source of the emerald tablet is unknown, although Hermes Trismegistus is the author named in the text. and we'll go into who he is, of course, we have to know this, is the author in the text. Its first known appearance is in the book written in Arabic between the 6th and 8th centuries. The text was first translated into Latin in the 12th century. There are numerous translations, interpretations, and commentaries. The layers of meaning in the Emerald Tablet have been associated with the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, as well as with other esoteric ideas. The Philosopher's Stone, or more properly called Philosopher's Stone, or Stone of the Philosophers, is a legendary alchemical substance capable of turning base metals such as mercury into gold or even silver. It's also called the Elixir of life, useful for rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. So you can imagine how all these alchemists were working to create gold and silver and find the stone and the secret to the elixir of life, that is, secret of longevity and immortality. How the Emerald Tablets influenced culture in the Renaissance. In its several Western recessions, the tablet became a mainstay of medieval and Renaissance alchemy. Commentaries and translations were published by, among others, Trithemius. Who was Trithemius? He was born Johann Heidenberg. He was a German Benedictine abbot and a polymath who was active in the German Renaissance as a lexicographer, chronicler, a cryptographer, an occultist. He had considerable influence on the development of early modern alchemy. And then Roger Bacon, also known by the scholastic allocate Dr. Morabilis, was a medieval English philosopher and Franciscan friar who placed considerable emphasis on the study of nature through empiricism. And in the early modern era, he was regarded as a wizard and particularly famed for the stories of whatever he did with alchemy. So you can see that even these monastics were alchemists. Then Michael Mayer, the German physicist and counselor to Rudolf II of Habsburg. He was a learned alchemist, epigrammist, and amateur composer. Then you had Albert Magnus, also known as Saint Albert the Great and Albert of Cologne, was a German Catholic Dominican friar and a bishop, later canonized as a Catholic saint. He was known during his lifetime as Doctor Universalis and Doctor Expertus, and he's another cleric. And we had Isaac Newton as an English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, theologian, an author who's widely recognized as one of the most influential scientists of all time, and as a key figure in the scientific revolution. So the concise text was a popular summary of alchemical principles, wherein the secrets of the Philosopher's Stones, Philosopher's Stone, were thought to have been described. And as we said, the Philosopher's Stone, or the Stone of the Philosophers, is a legendary alchemy substance capable of turning base metals such as mercury into gold or silver, and it's also called the Elixir of life, useful for rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. So they were all thought to have been described in the Emerald Tablets. The 14th century alchemist Hortolanus, he was also a medieval chemist. Little exists about his life and identity. He's best known for his influence commentary, The Emerald Tablets. So he wrote a substantial exegesis, meaning an explanation on the secret of Hermes, meaning Hermes Trismegistus, which was influential on the subsequent development of the alchemy. Manuscripts of this copy of the Emerald Tablet and the commentary of Hortolanus survive, dating at least as far back as the 15th century. Hortolanus, like Albertus Magnus before him, saw the tablet as a cryptic recipe that described laboratory processes using deck names or code words. That was the dominant view held by Europeans until the 15th century. By the 16th century, the writings of Johann Trithemius, the abbot, the Benedictine abbot, he lived between 1462 and 1516. That marked a shift away from laboratory interpretation of the Emerald Tablet to a literal approach. Trithemius equated Hermesis on one thing with the monad of Pythagorean philosophy, referring to monads referred to in cosmology to the supreme being, divinity, or the totality of all things. The concept was reportedly conceived by the Pythagoreans and may refer variously to a single source acting alone, or to an indivisible origin, or to both. So, and also the anima mundi. The anima mundi, the world soul, the soul of the world, according to several systems of thought, an intrinsic connection between all living things on the planet, which relates to the world in which the same way as the soul is connected to the human body. Plato adhered to this idea, and it was an important component of most Neoplatonists. Now, this interpretation of the Hermetic text was adopted by alchemists such as John Dee, Henrik Cornelius Agrippa, and Gerhard Dorn. Jung identified Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. Jung's work was influenced in the fields of psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, and religious studies. Now, it was about the time of Freud. Now, so Jung identified the Emerald Tablet with a tablet made of green stone, which he encountered in the first of a set of his dreams and visions, beginning at the end of 1912 and climaxing in his writing 7 Sermons to the Dead. It's a collection of 7 mystical or Gnostic texts written and privately published by Jung in 1916 under the title 7 Sermons to the Dead, written by Vasilidis of Alexandria, the city where East and West meet. Now, historians of science, Eric John Holmyard and Julius Ruska, also studied the tablet in the 20th century. Because of its long-standing popularity, the Emerald Tablet is the only piece of non-Greek Hermetica to attract widespread attention to the West. Now, Hermes Trismegistus in Greek, thrice greatest Hermes, is the purported author of the Hermetic Corpus, a series of sacred texts that are the basis of the Hermeticism. The origin and the identity: Hermes Trismegistus may be associated with the Greek god Hermes or the Egyptian god Thoth. Thoth. Thoth is one of the ancient Egyptian deities. In art, we often see him depicted as a man with the head of an ibis, with the head of a bird, or a baboon, animals sacred to him. His feminine counterpart was Seshat, and his wife was Ma'at. He was the god of wisdom, writing, hieroglyphs, science, magic, art, judgment, and the dead. That was Thoth. Greeks calling him Hermes, Egyptians god Thoth. Greeks in the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt. That Ptolemaic kingdom was, Ptolemy is about after one of the generals of Alexander the Great. We're talking about an era of about 323 BC, which ended with the death of Cleopatra and the Roman conquest at 30 BC. So, Egypt recognized the equivalence of Hermes and Thoth through the Interpretatio Graecia, what was interpreted from Greek, interpretation by means of Greek models. Consequently, the two gods were worshipped as one. In what had been the temple of Thoth in Kemenu, which was known as the Hellenistic period that area was called Hermopolis, the city of Hermes, Hermopolis. Hermes, the Greek god of interpretive communication, was combined with Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. The Egyptian priest and polymath Imhotep, we remember Imhotep from the Mummy, Imhotep. Imhotep was the Egyptian chancellor of the pharaoh Djoser, probable architect of Djoser's step pyramid, the highest priest of the sun god Ra at Heliopolis. Very little is known of Imhotep as a historical figure, but in the 3,000 years that following his death, he was gradually glorified and deified. Now we know about the pyramid of Djoser. We found that they had in that area, they had 25 granite tombs weighing about 100 tons each. We have a video on that, a couple of videos back. The lid alone was 30 tons, and they were empty. So what were they for? Well, there are those who believe that they were used as batteries. They had items in there that were fermented, and the fermentation with the granite weight would cause the carbon dioxide from the fermentation to squeeze the rocks and the quartz in the granite, and it would light up with a beautiful light blue light, lighting up not only the tomb but the whole pyramid and the whole area around the pyramid. So there were 25 of these in those areas. They had really advanced technology. We're talking about the Djoser pyramid and the technology, that they were actually batteries. This step pyramid of Djoser had a whole city underneath. And we shouldn't be surprised or astonished, because they have a whole city, a luxurious city was found under Djoser pyramid, and that was much older than the Giza pyramids. And the Giza pyramids have been found to have, from the time of Plato, he was even describing that they were luxurious, multi-level palaces underneath the Giza plateau, underneath the pyramids and the Sphinx. And the Sphinx is said to have tunnels and chambers that connect to the pyramids of the Giza plateau. So, amazing stuff, the technology that they had then. So the Egyptian priest and polymath Imhotep had been deified long after his death, and therefore assimilated to Thoth in the classical and Hellenistic periods. The renowned scribe Amenhotep, the son of Hapu, was the ancient Egyptian architect, priest, and scribe, and a public official who held a number of offices under Amenhotep III of the 18th dynasty. Amenhotep was a wise man named Theos, where were co-equal deities of wisdom, science, and medicine, and thus they were placed alongside Imhotep in shrines dedicated to Thoth Hermes during the Ptolemaic kingdom. A Messenian Greek reference to a deity or semi-deity called Tiriseroe, thrice hero, a triple hero, tris heroes, was found in 2 linear B clay tablets in Pylos, and could be connected to the latter epitaph, thrice great Trismegistus, applied to Hermes or Thoth. On the aforementioned PYTN 316 tablet, as well as the other linear B tablets found in Pylos, Knossos, and of Crete and Thebes, there appears the name of the deity Hermes as Emaha, but not in any apparent connection to the thrice heroes. This interpretation of poorly understood Mycenaean material is disputed, since Hermes Trismegistus is not referenced in any of the copious sources before he emerges in Hellenistic Egypt. Cicero enumerates several deities referred to as Hermes. A 4th Mercury, Hermes, was the son of the Nile, whose name may not be spoken by the Egyptians, and the fifth, who is worshipped by the people of Phaneas in Arcadia, is said to have killed Argus Panoptes. Argus Panoptes, or Argus, is a many-eyed giant in Greek mythology. The figure is known for having generated the saying, the eyes of Argus, as in to be followed by the eyes of Argus, or trailed by them, or watched by them. So it's a term describing strict scrutiny. Okay? Now, for this reason, they fled to Egypt and have given the Egyptian their laws and alphabets. From Arcadia, Arcadia is in Greece. Arcadia is one of the regional units of Greece, part of the administrative region of the Peloponnese, and is situated in the central and eastern part of the Peloponnese. The Peloponnese is where we have Argos as well, and the Mycenaean kingdom. And I have to remember, you have to remind you that in the Old Testament, in the book of the Maccabees, Argos and that area, and the Mycene, the Spartans. Okay, the Spartans. All that area was known to be populated by the tribe of Dan, and that's in the Old Testament. If you read the book of Maccabees, the Spartans were Danites, and in fact, in Greek, they have the saying, "Now you have to be afraid of the Danites bearing gifts." In the English version, the parables, the saying is, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts." But the literal translation in Greek is, "Beware of Danites bearing gifts." The true Greeks were considered to be Danites. You had to be from Argos. If you had a genealogy showing that you had ancestors from Argos, that's the only way that you could be allowed to take part in the Olympic Games of ancient Greece. Otherwise, you were considered a barbarian, and you were not allowed to take part in the Olympic Games of ancient Greece. Okay, you have to have a genealogy showing that your ancestors came from Argos, which means that you were Hebrew. All right. So from there they went to Egypt, and from Arcadia they went to Egypt, and most likely interpretation of the passage is as two variants of the same of Greek Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth, or sometimes other gods. The fourth, where Hermes turns out actually to have been the son of the Nile, hence a native god, being viewed from the Egyptian perspective, and the fifth, who went from Greece to Egypt, being viewed from the Greek Arcadian perspective. Both of these early references in Cicero, most ancient Trismegistus material, is from the early centuries AD, corroborating the view that thrice great Hermes originated in Hellenistic Egypt through syncretism between Greek and Egyptian gods. The Hermetica refer most often to Thoth and Amun. The Hermetic literature among the Egyptians, which once was concerned with conjuring spirits and animating statues, informed the oldest Hellenistic writings on Greco-Babylonian astrology and animating statues, and on the newly developed practice of alchemy, the branch of natural philosophy and proto-scientific tradition practiced throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa, originating in the Greco-Roman Egypt in the first few centuries. In a parallel tradition, Hermetic philosophy rationalized and systemized religion, cult practices, and offered the adept a means of personal ascension from the constraints of physical being. This latter tradition has led to the confusion of Hermeticism with Gnosticism, which was developed contemporaneously. Now, as a divine source of wisdom, Hermes Trismegistus was created with tens of thousands of highly esteemed writings. He was credited with tens of thousands of highly esteemed writings, which were reputed to be of immense antiquity. Clement of Alexandria was under the impression that the Egyptians had 42 sacred writings by Hermes, writings that detailed the training of Egyptian priests. Siegfried Moritz suggested that in Egyptian religion that the reference to Thoth's authorship is based on ancient tradition. The figure 42 probably stems from the number of Egyptian nomes. Nomes it's a territorial division in ancient Egypt, and thus conveys the notion of completeness. The Neoplatonic writers took up Clement's 42 essential texts. The Hermetica is a category of papyri text, the thick paper that was used in ancient times as a writing surface, made from the papyrus plant, containing spells and initiatory induction procedures. The dialogue called the Asclepius, after the Greek god of healing Asclepius, or Hippias, the hero and god of medicine in ancient Greek religion and mythology, describes the art of imprisoning the souls of demons or of angels in statues with the help of herbs, gems, and odors, like lighting incense or something. Even odors, fragrances, so that the statue could speak and engage in prophecy. In other papyri, there are recipes for constructing such images and animating them, such as when images are to be fashioned hollow so as to enclose a magic name inscribed on gold leaf. Now, you may say, oh, what a stupid thing to do, or, oh, who believes in things like this? Look, these statues, they were animated with demons. And I'll tell you what happened. Even the beginning saints of Christianity, when they went to visit various islands or various towns, or, at that time they were it was one king or duke or lord over the whole area, iemonas, let's put it that way, like a feudal type of system. And they had temples everywhere in these places. And when one of the early Christian saints had gone to this area, they knew that some saint got into the area because the statues of these demon-possessed statues would explode into pieces. They couldn't stand the fact that a saint of Christ was in their area, and they exploded into pieces. Okay, this is recorded. You don't believe me, but I'm telling you. This is what happened. So yes. So Hermes Trismegistus had various, what should we call them? Poems or enchantments or procedures, spells, incantations that were able to imprison the souls of demons or of angels. That's just terrible. I don't understand how he can imprison the souls of angels when angels are directly under the power of God, Christ God. I don't believe he could do that to angels. But demons most certainly. So with the help of herbs, gems, and odors, so that the statues could speak and engage in prophecy. Amazing. That's black magic. Now, thrice great. Fowders asserts that the first datable occurrences of this epithet, thrice great, are in the Legatio of Athenagoras of Athens. He was the father of the church, an ante-Nicene Christian apologist who lived during the second half of the 2nd century, of whom little is known for certain, besides the fact that he was Athenian, a philosopher, and a convert to Christianity, the father of the church. So he was a saint, Saint Athenagoras of Athens. And in a fragment from Philo of Byblos around 64 AD. But in a later work Copenhaver reports that this epithet is first found in the minutes of a meeting of the Council of Ibis cult about 172 BC near Memphis in Egypt. Memphis, of course, was a Greek city, an ancient Greek city. He explained that the epithet is derived from an epithet of Thoth found in the temple of Esna, a city in Egypt located at the west bank of the Nile, about 55 kilometers south of Luxor. Thoth, the great, 3 times great, the date of Hermes Trismegistus' sojourn in Egypt during his last incarnation is not now known, but it has been fixed at the early days of the oldest dynasties of Egypt, long before the days of Moses. Some authorities regard him as a contemporary of Abraham and claim that Abraham acquired a portion of his mystical knowledge from Hermes himself, according to the Cabal. Cabal, the Hermetic philosophy originating, published in 1908 under the pseudonym of the Three Initiates. It's a book claiming to be essence of the teaching of Hermes Trismegistus. Now, many Christian writers, including Lactantius, Augustine, Marsilio Ficino, Campanella, and Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, as well as Giordano Bruno, considered Hermes Trismegistus to be a wise pagan prophet who foresaw the coming of Christianity. They believed in the existence of the Prisca Theologia, that is, the doctrine that asserts that a single true theology exists which threads through all religions and which was anciently given by God to man. A single true theology that threads through all religions. It was given by God to man in antiquity and passed through a series of prophets, which include Zoroaster and Plato. Plato was not a prophet, by the way. That's what they see here. In order to demonstrate the variety of the Prisca Theologia, Christians appropriated the Hermetic teachings for their own purposes, and by this account, Hermes Trismegistus was either a contemporary of Moses or the third in a line of men named Hermes. Hence, Enoch, Noah, and the Egyptian priest king, who is known to us as Hermes Trismegistus, on account of being the greatest priest, philosopher, and king. So this last account of how Hermes Trismegistus received that epithet is derived from statements in the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus that he knows the 3 parts of the wisdom of the whole universe. So he claims. He's not God, so he can claim whatever he wants, but that doesn't mean it's true. So another explanation in Suda in the 10th century is that he was called Trismegistus on account of his praise of the Trinity, saying there is one divinity nature in the Trinity. So that's just the beginning, and then I'll slowly start making videos on the various tablets. There are many tablets, many of these emerald tablets, and I'll be reading them for you, so that if you want, you can refer to them if you'd like. Thank you for your patience and your support. Please subscribe, ring the bell for more videos, and please comment and share. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.